Good to see everyone is socially distanced. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are here to celebrate reaching another milestone in our efforts to provide a safe and well-run election for all Georgia voters. Over 600,000 voters have returned their absentee ballots. That is 40% of those who have requested them. We are also at over 90% of ballots having been received in voters' mailboxes. That's 12 days before the election. During this process, the people of Georgia have maintained more in-person voting options during this pandemic than any other state in the country combined. We have cut through the political rhetoric, ignored the talking heads, and put you, the voter, first. We have maintained your right to choose in this election. If you want to vote from the safety of your home, you can. If you prefer in person, you may. We know this process is working. My goal since the COVID crisis began is to do everything I can to ensure we have an election that has worked. That is why we stood up the absentee ballot program. But we still need the voters' help. And to quote another great Georgian, finish the drill. We need those of you who have that ballot sitting on your kitchen table to fill it out, sign it, drop it in the mail, or use a ballot drop box if your county has deployed them. We need as many of you as possible use this safe and easy voting tool. I know we are seeing the reopening moving forward, but the fact remains there are still fewer polling places in some counties. We have seen what happened in Appling and McDuffie counties. The COVID threat is still a potential threat to orderly elections and in-person voting. We need to keep lines short because many voters have certain disabilities and they must vote in person. The county elections workers, the real heroes, are doing incredible work. Not only have they accepted nearly 1.6 million absentee applications, they have been running advanced voting since May 18th. Just yesterday, Georgia surpassed 100,000 voters taking advantage of this option. And as a reminder, this Saturday is the mandatory weekend advanced voting day around Georgia. All of these point to a successful election and upcoming election day. That said, there is not now, nor has ever been in U.S. history, a perfect election. The good news is that all the counties have processed their applications, and those ballots are mailed or are being prepared to be mailed. There was a situation in Fulton County. They have taken responsibility for their missteps, and they've done the hard work to catch up. In fact, of the 127,800 voters who have requested ballots in Fulton, 95,000 of those have been mailed out, and 88,540 have received them, and that is 70%. With our program, the voters that have requested a ballot will have it in plenty of time to vote it and get it back to the county. In fact, starting tomorrow, all newly requested ballots will be mailed out by the counties. That is standard procedure, and that's their responsibility as we get closer to the actual election day. This success is truly a shared one. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue signed the law in 2005 that allowed for no excuse absentee voting, and that was vital to our program. The legislature passed House Bill 316 in 2019 and supplied the funding to purchase our new voting system that has enabled us to merge the presidential and general primaries. And again, the heroes of the counties, the elections and poll workers who are working hard every day to allow the voters to safely exercise their right to vote. This election is on pace to have a record turnout during a pandemic. That is simply amazing. And I am grateful to each and every voter that has taken the time to vote. Every vote cast before June 9th is one less voter that has to wait in line on election day. And the fewer people voting on the actual election day, the safer it will be for the voters, poll workers, and all Georgians. As I've said before, with the Lord's help, we will come out on the other side of this crisis better and stronger than we were before. All of us working together to ensure we have fair, accurate, honest, and safe elections. Thank you for being here today. Do we have any questions?
What's your advice for folks who have not gotten their ballots yet? They're
Well, we are working through that. Most of the counties are pretty much caught up. If you look at where we've actually had 1,549,000 applications. We've mailed out 1,532,000, so there's just a little delta there. Fulton was behind, and they've really worked in double time, overtime to get caught up. And so if you're in Fulton, be patient. They understand the situation. They've added additional resources to get up to speed. And so there's a little bit of throughput on that, but you will have it in time to safely get it in your home, review all the choices, and there's lots of choices with the general primary ballot, and then to mail that back or to drop that off at the county drop box. Be patient. It will be in the mail shortly. The counties are working on it. They understand the situation. The biggest backlog obviously was in Fulton County, and they've recognized that, and they've doubled their resources to move that forward. So yes, I would just be patient. You'll get your ballot here shortly.
Secretary, a part of the problem in Fulton County was with the email applications that were received by email. Has there been any talk about implementing a system, a centralized system that would collect those applications electronically instead of going through email that could then automatically be uploaded to the state? And how would that work with the signature match issue?
Well, Fulton County is really working on that, and today where we are in this election, we'll have the process in place. We'll just have to really come back afterwards, do a 360 view of what could we have done to improve it. Were there things that some counties could have incorporated, and we'll look at that for future elections. Oh, well, exactly. At some point, you don't have enough time, because if you want to use the mail service, you could always drop it off at a county drop box if your county has that. And so we say that if you get your application, you need to get that in the mail no later than that Friday before, really the Thursday before, because you have to account for the U.S. mail. Obviously, if you want to drop it off at the drop box at the county, you can then run it up to Tuesday, June 9th. But it does put you at the mercy of the United States Postal Service.
What are the challenges going to be that night on the 9th? Trying to get
If the absentee ballots need to be received no later than 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 9th to be counted. So if they show up at 7:01, 7:10, whatever, it's too late. So you have to make sure that it arrives before that time. So you have to count as the voter. And so many of those, there's probably 1 million ballots right now that are sitting on people's kitchen tables, and that's the ones that we're really focused on right now, is a large group of those that are just sitting there on the people's kitchen table. Take the time today or tomorrow. Look at all those selections that you have. I know that some of those nonpartisan judge races, I spent some time on those also. But go ahead and fill that out, sign it, close it up, and then get that mailed back. Okay. Okay. Hey, Mark.
What about the results that night? Get all this process all over.
Well, the State Election Board has worked on beginning the processing of the absentee ballots, and so they'll be, separating some of that out to pick up some time there. We've also did a major purchase of those high-speed scanners. So looking at where the applications, which counties had the most number of absentee applications, we're going to be deploying those additional high-speed scanners to expedite the counting of those ballots. Because we understand that you don't want to have to wait 1 to 2 weeks like they do in some states to get those results. So we'll be working on expediting that for voters.
Should
Mr. Neese.
voters be prepared if they don't vote absentee? Should they be prepared for long lines on election days, and also waits before we get results in some races because of the time it will take to process absentee ballots?
Well, what voters have to understand is that it's going to look a little bit different when you show up this time. First thing you'll notice that your election workers have on a mask and they have on gloves. They also will have you spaced in a line that is 6 feet apart. So a 60-foot line, is really just 10 voters, but normally that'd be 20, 30 voters. And so the lines get longer, and also it's going to take more time, because as you enter the polling location, everything is going to be wiped down. The state has supplied over 60,000 styluses, and so 3 per ballot marking device. And so that is to make sure that we can wipe everything off, but that takes time in that process. And so you just don't have the same amount of throughput that you would normally have. So voters need to be understanding of that. And by and large, people that have showed up, we've had over 100,000, they've been very patient. They understand that it does take a little bit longer, and as long as we have patience, we'll work through it. But that's why I make the plea today. If you have an absentee ballot sitting on your kitchen table, go ahead and fill that out, and then you don't have to worry about lines. The shortest line you're going to have is at your kitchen table.
You've described what the process is going to be like for counting votes on election night and perhaps afterwards. What's your prediction in terms of just how patient people will have to be on election night when they are accustomed to getting results by the 11 o'clock news? It sounds like this might be different. What should folks be prepared for in those terms?
Well, I'm really grateful that by and large, as we've gone through the challenges of COVID-19, I think you're seeing the best of America. And the American people understand that there are situations that we work through, and there's been an awful lot of patience. And I think on election night, they'll understand that if they don't get the results by 8:02, 8:15 or something like that, and it takes a little bit longer, they'll understand that. But that's why we've also gone ahead and secured additional high-speed scanners, because we want to expedite that any way we can. And that's why the state election board has, done some rulings to help that process with the absentee, ballots. But we understand that it will take a little bit longer, and we'll do everything we can, and so your counties want to get those results out to the voters so you know who won these elections.
Secretary, have you seen any technical issues with the new machines this early voting period? And if you have, what are some of those? What have you seen so far?
We have not heard of any technical issues. They've worked great in the fall pilot elections, and then we obviously had 2 weeks back in March when we did the presidential primary. People really enjoy the ballot marking device. We haven't been able to get the full run of use of those like we like because of COVID-19, but people just really feel really great that when they make all their selections with the touch screen, press that button, it prints out a paper ballot. They really feel it gives them that added confidence that they know their ballot is going to be securely and accurately counted.
You mentioned that the absentee ballots going forward would be sent out by the counties. Is that correct?
Yes.
What kind of workload is that going to add to their plates as they get ready for in-person voting and early voting as well? And is that going to change the look of the ballots that go out from now on, that have the previous ones that have gone out?
The ballot would still look the same. It's really the county would handling the processing of it. We've actually, right now, we're over 1.6 million, so really what's coming at the end is really the tail end, the last 10, 20%. So it's very manageable for the counties to handle with the HR resources that they have in place right now. Thank you for your question. Well, thank you.
Anything you can say about how this is kind of preparing you for the big test in November and kind of what you're learning now and how this could move forward when we have a much larger general?
Well, right now it's one day at a time, one election at a time. We want to, get June 9th under our belts, get that all wrapped up. Then we'll do a 360 assessment, really talk about what was the best, practices, what we could further improve, and then we'll take a look at that. We also have the runoff that'll be coming, 2 months later, which will be another opportunity. And so we're going to take that one step at a time and really look at the situation on the ground. Thank you. Appreciate your time today. God bless you.